Good morning, Santa Fe Baptist Church ladies. Welcome to Sunday school class, small group Bible study, whatever you want to call it. We are trying something new this week. I'm here in my bedroom. You can see that it is not live. If you can read a clock backwards, you'll be able to see that this is pre-recorded, and we're trying this week. Probably we're not going to continue doing it this way, but just for this week, this is what we're going to do for our ladies class. And I definitely wanted to go ahead and post this. My kids are like right outside my windows right here, so this is good. We can have our normal distractions. Did you get your coffee? Get your coffee, get your snack, because now is the time. I know that we're all not able to meet together right now, and that's kind of a big bummer. We have different personalities in our class, of course, and so different ladies are kind of like, this is my normal everyday life. I don't go anywhere anyway. And some people are not at all used to being home all the time and not seeing people. And so I'm sure that people are processing this whole situation differently. But regardless, we know that it's important as Christians for us to be spending time together, fellowshipping, and that doesn't necessarily have to take place in person, although I think that is ideal. But we want to try to keep some kind of fellowship going, so I wanted to go ahead and post this video this week. And I wanted to try to come up with a way that we can still interact with each other during this kind of class time while we are staying in our homes for the most part. So one option that I had considered was Facebook Live. I'm just going to talk about this for just a minute, and then we're going to get into the lesson. I had considered Facebook Live. I don't love the idea, number one, because I know there are quite a few ladies in our class who do not have a Facebook account. Some of them just because they don't, and some of them because they don't like Facebook. And so I didn't know if that was the best option. Also, it's hard when you are, I don't know, teaching a class and then there's like, words coming across. You don't see everything that people are saying. I just, it's an option. I don't think that we're going to go that route. The thing that I am leaning toward is called Zoom. So if you have ever used Zoom, raise your hand. It's a video chatting platform that can easily, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but groups can easily use it. So you do not have to sign up for an account in order to use it. This week, I will be sending out an email to the ladies in the class with the group meeting, I think they call it, invitation. And all you will have to do on Sunday morning at the time next week is click the link, and it should take you right to the website. I recommend that you do it early, like maybe 15 minutes before the class is scheduled to start. And that way you'll be able to maybe work through any, I think there's a download that it has to download something to enable the group chat on your computer. So you might want to get there a little bit early to just click the link. If you want to set up an account, that would give you time to do that, although you don't have to. And then just to kind of figure out how to use it. I think it's easy. I think it's self-explanatory, but just to give yourself a little time. So that's the plan for next week. Plans have been changing rapidly for the past couple weeks. So if that changes, I will let you know, but that is the plan for next week. So I want to go ahead and get right into the lesson for this week, which is about the presence of God. Interestingly enough, I thought it was very appropriate. We have been talking about characteristics of God that are God's. They're not something that we as humans can have. They're God's characteristics alone. And so I had my little bulletin board in our classroom, which I do not I didn't bring it home, so I don't have the list, but we've talked about how he's the creator, he's all powerful, he's eternal. He is, what's the word that it was? Incomprehensible. We cannot fully grasp all that there is to grasp about him, although he has revealed himself to us in his word. But today we're talking about how God is omnipresent. Omni just means all, and so the word means all present, and we're going to define that as his limitless presence. He is present everywhere and at all times, and he is with us even when we don't feel it very strongly. He is here. Isaac Watts, who is a very, I feel like he's a well-known hymn writer from several hundred years ago. He wrote "Joy to the World," "We're Marching to Zion," "When I Survey the Wondrous Cross," "Alas, and Did My Savior Bleed," "I Sing the Mighty Power of God," many songs that we're familiar with. He wrote in a song this phrase that I'm going to read. He wrote, "Within thy circling power I stand. On every side I find thy hand. Awake, asleep, at home, abroad, I am surrounded still with God." And I thought that was just a great poetic way to talk about God's presence, how he's always with us. It doesn't matter where. Recently in a lesson we read from Psalm 139, which I have it written down to talk about later, but just it doesn't matter if I'm, if I'm running, if I'm sleeping, if I go to the other side of the world, it doesn't matter. He's there with us. Here in New Mexico and near us, we have the Four Corners. I don't know how many of you have been to the Four Corners. I personally haven't been there yet. I would like to go just because it's kind of cool. But the cool thing about the Four Corners is you can be in 4 states at once. So you're kind of defying the laws of physics. You can be in New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, and Colorado all at the same time. Everybody has to take a picture when they go there with, like a hand and a foot in each place, or however they do it. So that's kind of the cool thing about going to the Four Corners. As you know, humans have a body. I don't say that we are a body, but humans have a body, and a body limits us to being in one place at one time. When you're at the Four Corners, it's cool because you know that it's like, ooh, I'm in 4 different places at once, but I'm not, like it's just kind of a funny thing to do. We feel like we're defying the limitations placed upon us. But God is a spirit. John 4 talks about that pretty clearly. Jesus was talking to the woman at the well, and he told her, you don't really know what you're talking about, because God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. He goes on, he's talking about something else, but God is a spirit. He's not limited by a body like we are. There's no time or place where God is not present. And I think that's interesting. If I want to remember, I don't know, I used to scrapbook. For a while I scrapbooked, and I'm talking about like in college. Not for a very long time I haven't scrapbooked. But when I look back, I can see, I remember that day I went to that person's house and we did this and we ate that, and it's all there in a cute little page in my scrapbook. If I want to remember something, I can turn, like if I were to keep a journal, which I'm not great at, I have in different times in my life. I do think that this notebook that I keep my lessons in are kind of like a journal, because I can go back through here all the way to, I don't know, I have dates on some of them, a long way back, a couple years back, and see what we've been studying in our class. But if I want to remember something, chances are I'm not going to remember it if I don't have it written down somewhere that I can go back and look. God doesn't need to journal or scrapbook, not because he remembers things in the past, but because he is there. He is here. He is here right now with me in my bedroom as I'm recording this crazy YouTube video, and he's with you in your home or wherever you are. He is also with Moses at the Red Sea, and he is at creation. He is present. The Bible makes it clear that it's not God was, but God is. And that's something that's hard for us to grasp because we are so limited. But he is present in the whole universe, the whole Milky Way galaxy. He's also present in the smallest little particle of an atom that is in this paper, you know. I'm not saying he is his creation. I'm not saying that the atom is God and the universe is God. I'm not at all saying that, and we've talked about that in previous lessons, but he is present. He is limitlessly present in his creation. Sometimes we feel God's presence more strongly than others. Maybe in a powerful worship service, we feel God's awesomeness or his glory or maybe his love, depending. We're singing songs and just praising him. And I think it's good to get emotional when you're singing because music is meant to be emotional. It is meant to touch us in a way that sometimes just words don't. And so you feel something strongly at that time. Maybe when you're reading through the Old Testament and you're reading about all the laws and things, maybe you feel like, wow, God is a holy God. I can feel that really strongly right now as I'm reading about all of the sins and the sacrifices and things. So we feel him differently at different times. But Acts 17, I like how they put it. We have talked about this chapter so much in the past several weeks in our class. The place where Paul was preaching on Mars Hill to the people at Athens and preaching about the unknown God and all that stuff. But in Acts 17:27, he mentions that he is not far from every one of us. It's not necessarily that I don't feel him because he's not here. I think we can distance ourselves from the Lord, but as far as his presence, he is here. He is not far from every one of us. And this is talking about how they can seek him and find him if they're looking for him because he's not far. He's not hiding himself. He's not, he hasn't deserted us or left us alone. And I feel like, especially when we're going through a time like we are right now when we're not able to meet together, it's good to remember that God doesn't live in the church building. It's good for us to meet together. It's good for us to be there. And, there is something special about coming together, and a church building has been set aside as a place to worship him. And so that makes it special in a way. But he is in us. He is with us. He is with us even when we're stuck in our home or in the car, or if you're still able to go to work or whatever you're doing, he is there with you here. One of the names of God, we did a study on the names of God a couple years ago, and one of them that I really liked studying about, and I remember it hit right before Christmas, which was kind of neat how that just worked out, but Jehovah Shammah, the Lord is there. And I remember we kind of put that together with Emmanuel, God with us, which was very appropriate, I thought, for Christmas. But that's one of his names has to do with his presence with us. The Lord is not gone. He hasn't deserted. He's not up in heaven, but not here with us. He is here. We are bound in time and place. We're kind of stuck just by the limits of the body. We like to push the limits that we have. I'm here in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and this is where I live. And I'm a little bit more stuck right now than usual, perhaps. People aren't traveling, and I did go pick up some groceries this morning, but then I came home as quick as I could, washed my hands good, washed the groceries that I brought home. And but with technology and things, we can push the limits a little bit. We were learning in school, you guys know I homeschool my kids, and we were learning the other day about Egypt and the Suez Canal and the conflict over who was going to control that. And excuse me. So we mentioned the Aswan High Dam, which they built along the Nile River to make a big reservoir and to control the flow of water at that time. And so my kids were like, well, I wonder what that looks like. And I was like, you know what? We're going to go see it. So we hopped on Google Earth and literally took satellite images, zoomed in from looking at the globe, and then just kept zooming in, found our way over to Africa, went up to that northeast corner of Africa, zoomed in closer, like, oh, there's the Sinai Peninsula, zoomed in closer. And it was so, I don't know, kind of surreal to think, like, this is a real picture. Like, I'm actually really looking at the Aswan High Dam, and we could see exactly what it looked like. I may be stuck in Santa Fe, but I can take advantage of technology to zoom around the earth and look at cool stuff we're studying about in history. FaceTime. I don't know how many of you have FaceTime or a similar thing, but we can talk to my parents. We can talk to my husband's mom, or we can talk to cousins or whatever, you know, and it's real time. You can chat. On Twitter, I have a Twitter account. If you follow me on Twitter, the only thing I ever post there are like giveaway entries. So I recommend unfollowing me on Twitter because it's not at all interesting. But if you get an extra point in a giveaway for posting on Twitter, I'll post it. And then I literally never look at my Twitter page. But there are people who use Twitter and they can talk to millions of people at once, which is not possible just in person. If you're on Facebook, you can have friends all over the world. But none of these really replace physical presence. And that's so interesting in what we're going through right now, because we're finding technology is awesome, but it's not the same as physically being together. Face to face is far superior. When you're trying to be in two places at once, for example, I know we're not thinking we're really in two places at once, but if I want to be with my parents, I can call them up on FaceTime. We can see each other. They can walk around their house. I can see their garden outside, which is nothing yet. We can sit, they can sit in their living room and I can sit in my living room and we can chat, but that's not the same thing as truly being face to face. And one of the things that makes it not as great is you're not really fully present in either place. When I'm on Facebook checking in with my friends who live in wherever, Michigan or Florida or Hawaii or wherever, you know, like I have missionaries I know in Belarus or wherever. When I'm checking in with them, I'm not fully present in my living room either. And I think that's one of the complaints that people have about phones and technology is you may be doing stuff over here online, but you're not really paying attention to the people that you are face to face with. And the Bible even talks about this. Let's see, 2 John, verse 12. Let me turn to that real quick. 2 John. He says, having many things to write unto you, I would not write with paper and ink, but I trust to come unto you and speak face to face, that our joy may be full. I'm not talking about doctrine, okay? But John even writes here, I've got a lot of stuff to say, but I'm going to wait until I can be with you in person. Because it's just better. Face to face is better than writing a letter or posting a YouTube video or being on Facebook. I think technology has its awesome advantages, but of course, physical human presence is better. Paul mentions wanting to be in two places at once in Philippians chapter 1. Philippians. He says in verses 23 and 24, I am in a strait between two, having a desire to depart and be with Christ, which is far better. Nevertheless, to abide in the flesh is more needful for you. He's talking about how he's a little bit torn. He wanted to go to heaven. He was maybe tired of being in prison and the struggles and things he was undergoing. But he said, well, I want to be there, but I want to be here with you. This is a human... What am I trying to say? This is a human fact that we all deal with, is the fact that we cannot truly be in two places at once. No matter what kind of technology we have, no matter what kind of website we can look at, we really are stuck right here and right now. I can't go back and visit the past, cool though that would be. I can't go and visit the future. I'm just here. I'm here right here. But that's not God. We're talking about God and his limitless presence. I just have a couple verses to read and then we're going to be done. God is everywhere and he is everywhen. I made that word up just for this. Jeremiah 23. Maybe I should have written down my verses, but I thought this would make it more like real life if I actually had to look them up here. And maybe if you're looking them up, it gives you time. Jeremiah 23, 23 and 24. God is talking, he says, "Am I a God at hand, saith the Lord, and not a God afar off? Can any hide himself in secret places that I shall not see him, saith the Lord? Do not I fill heaven and earth, saith the Lord?" He's just letting you know, I mean, you're not going to be able to get away. That was the Jonah thing, right? There's no privacy laws. I'm talking about like what can be shared. I don't know. I was thinking about HIPAA laws and, wiretap laws and all the protections we have in place for people that they can't share private things. There's no privacy law that prohibits God from seeing and hearing and knowing all that there is about us. He is present everywhere. And I think that makes us appreciate grace a little bit more because we can hide stuff from other people just by the fact that they're not there all the time. But we can't hide anything from God, and he still loves us, and he still gave his son to die for us. So since he knows every single thing there is to know about me because he is there when I do it, that should make me appreciate his grace. And there's also something with God being everywhere and everywhen, my new word, something called the ministry of presence. This is something that we're missing right now. This is, I think we've all been in a place where it's not necessary for somebody to say something about our problem, but just knowing that they are there is enough. It's maybe if they said something, it would even be too much. You just feel like I can't hear anything right now, but I need to know that you're here with me, that you are, struggling through this, or maybe they can't understand the struggle, but that the person is there with you. It is an act of ministry to just be present with people sometimes. Deuteronomy 31. Let me find that real quick. Deuteronomy 31, verse 8 says, "The Lord, he it is that doth go before thee. He will be with thee. He will not fail thee, neither forsake thee. Fear not, neither be dismayed." He is here, and there is something, even when you're going through a hard time, about knowing he's with me. Sometimes if somebody were to tell you the right answer, it's not very helpful because of the struggle that you're going through. Usually, just to be honest, we know the right answer, but we're still struggling. But we can still know, even in the struggle, he is there. I liked this verse in Genesis 28, verse 16. This is Jacob when he had his dream and saw the ladder and the angels going up and down. He said, Jacob awakened out of his sleep, and he said, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not." I feel like that describes all of it, right? He is here in this place, and I didn't even realize it. And that's how we go about our lives sometimes. Like, we live like he isn't with us. Jonah thought he could run away in a ship and hide from God. And we may not try to physically run away from God, but a lot of times we do live like he's not with us, and he is. Psalm 139, this is the one I mentioned at the very beginning, and it's the very end. We finally got to it. Psalm 139, verses 7 through 12. The Bible says, "Whither shall I go from thy spirit? Or whither shall I flee from thy presence? If I ascend up into heaven, thou art there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, thou art there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there shall thy hand lead me, and thy right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, Even the night shall be light about me. Yea, the darkness hideth not from thee, but the night shineth as the day. The darkness and the light are both alike to thee. Just a reminder that he is with us, and whether we knew it not, like Jacob, or whether we are aware of it, he is there. Our knowledge of it or our thinking about it doesn't change the fact that he is there with us. We're going through a time where we can't physically be with each other, and as a fairly introverted person myself, I haven't really started struggling with that yet on a personal level. But let me tell you, on a spiritual level, I have felt as though, God, where are you? A couple times, maybe more than a couple times. I was actually driving to do something about a week ago and listening to the radio, and I felt like I had been struggling, and the songs they were playing, they were for me. I'm sure that's happened to all of us, where you're like, how did they know I needed that? God knew. The song that was playing, it just came on. It said, "Oh my soul, you're not alone. There's a place where fear has to face the God you know." And I was like, oh, that was for me. I was crying and everything, trying to do my Walmart grocery pickup. But we're not alone. We feel physically alone right now. Some of us more than others. Some of us have a bunch of kids in the house or whatever, but some of you don't. I know some of you live alone, and it's got to be a lot more isolating in those kind of situations, which is one reason we want to get these online chat things set up so that we can still interact and fellowship. But even in between, even if we didn't have that, we're not alone. God is with us. God's presence is everywhere. God is not in quarantine, thankfully. I've been thinking a lot about what we've actually been studying in our school, the time of World War II and the curfews and the rationing and the different things we read about Corrie Ten Boom and how she was put in prison in solitary confinement for months. And when I read about those things, number one, what I'm in right now doesn't seem too bad. And number two, it's just a reminder that he's there and he's here. He was there with them when they were going through those things. And I use the word he was there with them from a human perspective, because like we said, he's not bound by time. He is there with them, and he is here with me, and he will be here with me no matter what happens, and with you no matter what happens. So I hope that's encouraging. Like I said, this is honestly just the lesson that we came to in our study we've been going through, and I feel like it was so applicable. I considered doing a different lesson, more about current circumstances, even though I feel like this one is kind of about current circumstances, but I considered, wow, I can't talk. I considered doing more of a, just picking a lesson that I thought could apply. But honestly, I'm tired of reading about stuff on Facebook about sickness and quarantine and disease, and I thought maybe some of you were too. So I decided to just keep going, but God works it out, and God knows what we need. So call out to him. He is here. He is not far from any of us. Paul reminds us in Acts. I just want to mention, if you have questions about Zoom or concerns about internet, I know there are some people in our class who don't really use the internet much at all, so we're going to try to do our best to help them be able to get set up if possible. I know that there are some who will not be able to join, and I am really, I wish there were a way that I could make that possible. I don't know what the best way is. So if you have thoughts, suggestions, concerns, please feel free to message me on Facebook, to text me on my phone, feel free to email me. You can call. Honestly, we're continuing going with homeschooling, so if it's during a normal day, chances are I won't answer, because I don't typically answer the phone during the day if I'm teaching and whatever. But if you leave a message, I'll get it. And I would love to hear from you with anything about that. If you're watching this lesson, and if you made it through half an hour, which was longer than I thought it was going to be, congratulations for making it this far. Welcome. I'm glad that you joined us. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions or just want to say hey, that'd be cool too. So like I said, next week we're going to try to do this live on Zoom. But I appreciate you joining us today, and I hope you all have a great Sunday, and that you're able to feel the presence of God in your life, even when you're a little bit cut off from the presence of people. So thanks, and we'll see you again next time.